Welcome to the Science of Fiction HFY Galaxy Tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from HFY Galaxy Tales, where humanity always finds a way. Asterisk, the unexpected visitor. The man sat in his small cabin, the fire crackling softly in the corner. The day had been long, the cold creeping through the walls, but he had grown used to it. Out here, on this distant planet, there was little to do but survive. He had been a soldier once, but now, he was just a man. Alone with his thoughts, and the stars above, he had come here to escape the past, but the past always seemed to find him. As he sat in the quiet, he heard a knock on his door. It was soft at first, then louder. As if the person on the other side was unsure, he stood up quickly, his heart racing. Who could it be? No one ever came out this far. The planet was a wasteland, empty and forgotten. He grabbed his coat, wrapping it tightly around him before heading to the door. When he opened it, he saw her, a woman, standing in the cold, her face pale from the chill. She was tall and slender, with sharp, angular features, and large eyes that looked at him with both fear and desperation. She wasn't human, he could tell by the strange markings on her skin and the way her eyes shimmered in the dim light. She had the look of someone who had been through a great deal. "Please," she said, her voice weak, "I need your help." The man was caught off guard. He didn't know what to say. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice gruff, trying to hide the confusion in his chest. The woman took a deep breath, her hands shaking as she spoke. "I am Lyra, from the planet Draxia. I have no place to go. My people, my family, they're all gone." Her voice broke on the last words, and for the first time the man noticed the tear running down her cheek. He felt something stir inside him, a strange mix of sympathy and curiosity. "Why are you here?" he asked, stepping back from the door to let her in. She hesitated before stepping inside, the cold following her like a shadow. "I was told to find you," she said softly. "My people. They said you could help me, that you would understand." The man frowned, unsure of what she meant. But he knew one thing: he didn't want to be alone anymore. "What do you need?" he asked, his voice softer this time. Lyra took a step forward, her hands folding in front of her, as if unsure of what to say. "I need a place to stay," she began, and, "I need you to help me save my children. They need a father." The man's heart skipped a beat at her words. He had no idea what she meant. He couldn't be a father to anyone. He barely even knew how to take care of himself, let alone someone else's children. "You're asking the wrong person," he said, shaking his head. But there was something in her eyes that made him pause. Something that made him question his words. Lyra stepped closer, her voice soft but filled with urgency. "You don't understand. I don't have anyone else. You're my only chance." She glanced down at her feet, as if afraid to meet his eyes. "I was given a choice. Find you, or lose them. I can't lose them, not after everything we've been through." The man stood in silence, his mind racing. He had lived a life full of battles and wars. But this was something entirely different. He wasn't sure what it was, but he knew that something had shifted, that somehow, his life was about to change, and he had no idea how to handle it. "I'll help you," he finally said, his voice steady despite the chaos swirling in his mind. "But I need to know what you're asking of me. What do you mean by father?" "I can't be anyone's father." Lyra's eyes softened, and she took a step closer, her gaze never leaving his. "You don't have to be their father," she said, "but you can help me protect them. You're the only one who can give us a chance. You're the only one who can make a difference." The man didn't know what to say. He had never expected to be asked for something like this. But as he looked at her, standing there in the cold, desperate but hopeful, he realized one thing: he couldn't turn her away. "Not now." "All right," he said quietly. "I'll help you. We'll figure this out together." And with those words, the man knew his life had changed forever. Asterisk, unlikely alliance. The days that followed were filled with uncertainty. The man didn't know what to make of Lyra or her situation. She had said she needed his help, that her children needed a father, but he still didn't understand. How could he, a man who had spent years alone, be what she needed? He had no family, no experience with children. His life had been one of solitude, of battles fought and won, but no one to share it with. Still, he couldn't deny the growing connection between them. Lyra was different from anyone he had ever met. She wasn't just asking for help. She was pleading for a chance to give her children a future. He couldn't turn her away. Not after seeing the pain in her eyes, the desperation in her voice. Over the next few days, they spent more time together, Talking and working on the cabin, Lyra had shown him her children. Small, fragile beings with wide eyes, who looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and fear. She had explained that they had been on the run, moving from planet to planet, trying to escape those who had destroyed their world. The more the man listened to Lyra, the more he realized how little he knew about the galaxy outside his small, isolated world. He had always fought in wars, never asking questions, just following orders. But Lyra had shown him a different side of things. She spoke of her home planet, of a people who had once thrived but now lived in constant fear. Her story was heartbreaking, and yet, she had endured. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Lyra spoke more about her life. "My husband was a warrior," she said softly. "He fought to protect our people, but he died in the last battle. I couldn't keep him safe. I couldn't protect my family." Her voice cracked with emotion, and for the first time, the man saw the true depth of her pain. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, not knowing what else to say. Lyra nodded, wiping away a tear. "I didn't think I would survive after he died," she continued. "But then I realized, I had to keep going for them. For my children, I couldn't give up. I had to find a way to keep them safe. Even if that meant asking someone like you for help." The man was silent for a moment, feeling the weight of her words. He had never known loss like she had, never known what it was like to have your whole world shattered. But something inside him stirred, something he hadn't felt in years. He wanted to help her, to give her the strength she had lost. He wasn't sure how, but he knew he would try. "What do you need from me?" he asked, his voice steady. "I've never been a father. I don't know how to raise kids." Lyra smiled, though it was a sad smile. "You don't have to be a father to them," she said. "Just be there, protect them, teach them what you know. They need someone strong, someone to show them how to survive in this world. I can't do it alone." The man thought about it. It seemed simple enough, but the weight of her request sat heavily on his shoulders. He had never been responsible for anyone but himself. But when he looked at Lyra, at her children, he realized that maybe this was his chance to be something more than just a soldier. He stood up, stretching his arms. "All right," he said. "I'll help, I'll teach them what I know, and I'll protect you all." Lyra's eyes softened, and for the first time, the man saw a flicker of hope in her gaze. "Thank you," she whispered. "I knew I could trust you." Over the next few weeks, the man began to teach Lyra's children what he had learned over the years. How to survive in the wild, how to use weapons, how to fight when the time came. But it wasn't just about survival. He taught them about life, about strength, about never giving up, even when the odds seemed impossible. In return, Lyra taught him about patience, about caring for others, something he had never learned. Slowly, the bond between them grew, not just out of necessity, but out of genuine respect. And as the days turned into weeks, the man found himself wondering if this was what he had been missing all along, a family, a place where he truly belonged. A new family. As the days turned into weeks, the man began to see something he hadn't expected. Lyra's children were not the only ones learning from him. He was learning from them too. In their eyes, he saw a different kind of strength, a resilience that had been formed through loss and survival. They had seen their world destroyed, their family torn apart, yet here they were, still fighting, still living. The man found himself growing attached to them, not just as a protector, but as a father figure, someone who was finally learning to care for others. One evening, as the family sat around the fire, the man looked at Lyra, something shifting in his chest. He had become part of this small family, a family he never thought he would have. There was something so right about it, so natural, that he couldn't imagine his life any other way. He had taught her children about survival, but they had taught him about love and what it meant to care for someone else. Lyra noticed the change in him. "You've come a long way," she said one evening, her voice soft. "I see it in the way you look at them. They're not just your responsibility anymore. They're part of you." He smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "I never thought I would be here, doing this," he said quietly, "but it feels right. Like this is where I'm meant to be." Lyra nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I knew you were different from the others, from the moment you helped me," she said. "You gave us a chance I didn't think we had anymore." The man had heard her words before, but now, they took on new meaning. He had given them a chance, but they had given him something too, something he never expected, a new purpose, a new family. As the fire crackled between them, he realized that this was the life he had been searching for all along. He had been running from his past, from the battles he had fought, but in the warmth of their small family. He found something he hadn't realized he was missing: love. The next day, as the sun rose over the horizon, the man stood up, feeling a sense of determination he hadn't felt in years. He looked at Lyra and her children, who were busy with their morning chores. They were not just survivors anymore. They were family, and family meant everything to him now. As Lyra approached, she smiled at him. "What's on your mind?" He turned to her, his eyes meeting hers. "I've made a decision," he said, his voice steady. "I want to stay here, with you, with your children. I want to be a part of your life, all of our lives. Not just as someone who protects, but as someone who belongs." Lyra's eyes softened, a smile tugging at her lips. "You already are a part of us," she said, stepping closer. "You're not just a protector, you're our family." The man felt a weight lift off his shoulders. The uncertainty he had carried for so long finally fading away. He was home, and no matter what the future held, he knew he was ready to face it with them. Together, they would survive. Together, they would thrive. As he looked at the family he had come to love, he realized that this was the life he had always wanted but never thought he could have. A family, a home, love, something more than survival. And as the sun set that evening, casting a golden glow over their little cabin, the man knew one thing for sure. He had found everything he needed, not in the battles he had fought, but in the love they had built, and with Lyra and her children, he knew he had finally found his place in the universe.